We have sound? There we go. Hello, everyone. I am going to get rid of that. Sorry about that. Okay. That needs to go out of the way. Camera adjustments. I'm Carol Crafty Grandma, and today we are going to finish up the Winslet wallet. It is a pattern that I purchased, and the link is in the description, so you can go down there. It is one pattern. The purchase of the pattern includes the printed copies, the pattern pieces, and it includes 5 videos that total, I think, 30 minutes. I mentioned it in part 1, so you need to go back and check because I actually timed it at that point. That show you the basic steps of how to put the wallet together. Now, I have taken 5 videos. This will be the 5th, and we will finish it today. I've taken 5 live videos to complete this wallet. Couple things that happened. I had technical difficulties on one, so we only actually got like 5 minutes into it. So, or this is the 4th video. It took me 4 videos. I want to say part 2 is like 20 minutes long, and most of it is the introduction like I'm doing today, and then my camera's dying and tragedy striking. So really I don't count that. I made a full wallet on my own without cameras and without talking, and it took me about 3 hours total. My picture has frozen. Please, I hope it's only on my tablet and not on what you're seeing. All right. So during the other parts of this series, we have cut out the pattern. We have assembled the back piece, or the inside piece, I should say. So this is where your credit cards are going to go. We've got the exterior. We've got the zipper wallet assembled. All of this has been done, so all we have to do at this point is put the pieces together. All right. And I do have a lot of string on the sides. There we go. And if you want, you can cut those off. It's not going to hurt anything. But we are going to be trimming up the seams later on. So therefore, I haven't messed with it. I know that it's going to get cut out later steps. But I know it does bother some people to sew with the strings all over the place. So please understand, I'm just doing it because I do know that for a fact we are going to have some steps later on that get rid of it. So here is our pen loop. So that's attached in the middle. You'll notice that that side, the dark green, or dark purple from the top to the top of the other piece, and over here are 2 different sizes. So I did angle my credit card pocket a little bit there, and I have the same issue on the top. So just the way I put it together, I did some, obviously my credit card pocket was a little angled when I put it on there. Okay. So on the directions, we are currently on step number 38. So I'm going to get my pocket out of the way. And we are going to be joining our zipper pocket to the inside credit card pockets. And the inside is actually going to be like this. So it's going to be the cotton fabric, and then it's going to join up to our canvas fabric here. So to do that, we need to get all of our extra pieces of fabric out of the way. So we'll fold down the other part of the zipper pocket, and we're going to get the lining out of the way. So the only thing we're going to attach is right sides together, the canvas, and the interior fabric. And because I'm using canvas, I'm going to use my clips instead of pins. It just saves hassle. But if you just have pins, you don't have clips, go ahead and use those. If I was using just cotton fabric, if I wasn't using the canvas, I would go ahead and just use pins. I wouldn't mess with the clips. All right. So over to the sewing machine. How's that camera set up? Hey, that looks pretty good. So, in our last part, we finished up making the zipper compartment. So our zipper foot is currently on the machine. We want to go back to our walking foot because we are using so many layers of fabric. A walking foot is very helpful at this point. And for those of you that don't know what a walking foot is, a walking foot has feed dogs on the top. So on the foot itself, it has feed dogs on it. So there's feed dogs on the bottom that feed the fabric, and there's feed dogs now going to be on the top that will also feed the fabric. That makes heavy layers, multiple layers, heavy fabrics go through smoothly, or more smoothly, I should say, than they normally would. And keeps all of your fabric together. When you're sewing, and you may have noticed this at some point in time, the fabric on the top, so if even if you only have 2 layers of fabric and they're both cotton, so they're both light, the fabric on the bottom tends to move faster than the fabric on the top. That's because it's actually getting fed through the machine by the feed dogs. The fabric on the top is just kind of just sliding along, for lack of a better word. Sliding is a good word. Using the feed dogs, or the walking foot, we're going to get the fabric to feed through at an even rate. Now, I did forget to look. Sew using a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I thought it was, but I just wanted to verify. So on my particular foot here, inside the toe is 1/8 of an inch. There's a short toe that makes 1/4 of an inch. And on the exterior of my walking foot, that is a 1/2 inch. So I will feed this through. If you'd prefer, you can draw a 1/2 inch seam right down the fabric using a marker, a fabric marker. Oh, and I do have a Universal 90 needle on my machine. I'm not using a leather needle because I'm not using vinyl or leather or anything like that. I am just using the Universal 90. And even when I use vinyl, a lot of times I'll just use a Universal 90. The leather needle has a different shaped eye, so it makes it feed through, the thread feed through a little differently and makes it better for thicker threads. Since I'm using a standard polyester thread, I didn't see any reason to mess with the heavier needle. All right, here. I keep hitting that camera. I hope it's going to be okay. No, I have shifted it. There we go. So there is my 1/2 inch seam. Now, as you can see, my second layer of interfacing is just shy of the seam. I didn't make this absolutely perfect. You know, this inside layer of interfacing is supposed to just be on the edge of the seam, and it's close enough. It's going to be fine. All right, so now that we've done this, does it say to press? It does. So we're going to press the seam open, which is going to be all kinds of fun because of the fact that we have canvas. And the canvas is going to want to fight with me. So seam open is going to be like this. Oh, I forgot. I have a new camera today. Let me see. Let's get my water out of the way first. Let's see how this is going to work. There we go. Yes, my ironing board cover is a mess. I should have thought of that before I added the new camera. Alright, so the first thing you always do when you have a seam is you press it closed. Oh, and the other problem we have is the sunlight from the window. I haven't had that problem with my other cameras because they're far enough away from the window. This one is getting sunlight. Might have to think about that one. Okay, so now we're going to open it up. We've softened everything up by heating it up with the initial press. And now we're going to press it open. And like I said, the canvas doesn't want to fold nearly as much as the cotton does. So it's a little challenging. All right, once you get to the end, let it rest a little bit. I have a terrible problem where I automatically lift up my iron, excuse me, from when I get to the end, and then my last side doesn't actually press very well. All right, so as you can see, well, maybe not. Let's go this way. So if you look, see how the cotton is nice, laying over nicely, and the canvas still wants to stick up in the air. So now I'm going to press it from the other side. Same thing, just let it relax for a few minutes so that it can actually adhere. And if you watched one of the other parts, and you can sort of see it here, there's lines on the canvas. I messed up. I should not have drawn the lines on the canvas side of the fabric. It messed up they're not going to go away. Even though the lines, you can't actually see the color that was in it, the pen messed up the fabric. So, won't be doing that again. Have to remember that. I've done it on other kinds of fabric. This particular fabric, I don't know what happened. I've done it on other fabrics, other canvases, and I didn't have an issue, but for some reason this particular one I did. Okay, so that was 38A and 38B. That's where those steps. 39. Now we are going to get our exterior part, piece C exterior panel. So that's that. And now we have all of our labels over here. We're going to move those over to where the pattern is, and we're good. All right, so now this needs to get attached to the exterior, there. So that's the picture you're looking for. And let's go over here and look at it a little bit closer up. So this is what we're looking for. We want the exterior of the pocket area and the exterior piece to be attached together, because that's how it's going to look in the end. So we want to fold it over and we'll clip. And you want just as before, so now we still have the inside. This is going to be the pocket, the actual zippered pocket. This is all still free, so we do not want this sewn at all. So all we're going to sew is the part we just clipped together. There we go. And this is also a 1/2 inch seam. So we're making sure all of our other fabric is out of the way. fabric stays straight and aligned, top and bottom. Wonderful. So here's our seam. So this is our cotton fabric. You can see it also has its second layer of interfacing, so it's a little tighter or stronger. And then this is our canvas fabric. And there is its second layer of interfacing, and our seam goes right down there. And now, just like we knocked over my directions. Just like we always do, we need to press. So loosen up the stitches and the fabric by pressing the seam closed together. Okay. And now we're going to open it up. Press the seam open. Okay. Let it press for a minute. And this is step 39A and B. Guess we're going to have the exact same problem, as we always do with canvas. Canvas is a little thicker. It's a thicker fabric, so actually the cotton's not staying down nearly as much this time either. Maybe I didn't let it sit long enough. Remember, don't ever walk away from your iron when you do that. I mean, don't walk out of the room. I walked over, got something to drink, that's fine. But when you leave your iron like this, don't just leave it. You have to remember that it still could have issues, so you want to make sure you keep an eye on it. All right, so now we have our fabric pressed. Let's go back over to here. Yeah, this camera's being difficult with me today. I don't think it's being difficult with you. It's just being difficult with me. All right, so this is going to be the exterior. This is the exterior flap, and this is going to be the other part that folds up. So we're going to look like this. We have all of that. We have our inside, so our canvas is here, pockets are here. I have to leave that unzipped. I almost forgot. This stays unzipped for the next step. So step number 40, big bold letters it says, keep the zipper open. Open is capitalized. So very important that you do this, because you will not be able to complete your wallet if you don't listen to this. Keep the wallet open, and we're going to take our pieces and we're going to flip them right sides together. And then we're going to take our interior of our pocket and flip it up. All right. So now here comes the fun part. Now we have to pin these pieces together. And again, I'm not using pins. I am going to use my clips because of the thickness of all of the fabric. And I'm starting at this seam. I'm starting at the seam that we just, this two seams we just made, so that they match up perfectly. And the seams are right on with each other. And then I'm going to go to the bottom. And I'm not a big pinner. I used to be. I used to put pins every 1/4 of an inch. It looked like a mess when I got done because I had pins everywhere. I don't do that anymore, simply because I have found that, again, the fabric does shift as you're stitching it. So therefore, if it moves just a little bit, I was freaking out and thinking, oh my God, my pins they're not completely where they need to be, they're not gonna match up, blah, 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 blah. So I had to get over that problem. Now, there is another seam up here where the zipper was inserted, and you do want to try and make sure that that gets matched up with a pin. And it's going to be at a different spot on both sides. And you want to try and get your seam open, because we did try and press it earlier, but you know, things happen and they move around. So you want to try and press it, or get the seams to press, or going in the same direction, so that everybody is even. And then we are not going to sew this seam here, but we are going to sew up the side. We want to kind of match that up. And this is actually going to be the end of our seam. We're going to sew the bottom seam across, then we're going to sew up one side, and then we're going to start at the bottom and sew up the other side. You want to try this. That will give you, if there is any fabric movement, it's going to be closer to the end. And the end is going to be where the pocket is going to be inside the zipper. So you want to try and put any shifting of fabric as far out of vision as you can. And so that's going to be why we're doing it that way. All right. I do believe 1/2 inch seams, but I want to verify. Oh, it does say press zipper towards flap lining. It's going to be okay. Using a 1/2 inch seam allowance, sew around the sides and bottom edge of the wallet. Taper the sides of the flap lining. That's this piece here. Sorry, technical problem. Taper the sides of the flap lining SA into 5/8 so that it fits neatly into the finished wallet. So what it's saying is, from here to here, we're going to start at a 1/2 inch on this when we get to this seam, and we're going to angle it just slightly to 5/8 of an inch. So how do you do that? I typically do it by putting a mark on the fabric. Five-eighths is 1/8 inch bigger than a 1/2 an inch, because remember our seam allowance is a 1/2 an inch, and we want this to be just slightly in from the 1/2 inch seam that we're doing the rest of the way up, because we want the bottom of the pocket to fit nicely inside of, we want the lining of the pocket to fit nicely inside the zippered compartment of the lining. All right. If you would like to draw a line from the mark I just made to a 1/2 inch down there, you can. I am not going to worry about that. Actually, that one's drawn on the wrong side. I need to put it on this side, because this side is going to come that way. I knew when I was talking I was doing something wrong. I just couldn't remember what it was. That's what it was. Woo! Because we're going to come from the bottom down. So we're going to be on that side. Okay, now we go to the sewing machine. Let's bring our little bucket of tabs. All right, so 1/2 inch seam. walking foot, everything's the same. Everybody's still straight, that's good. Okay, now, 1/2 inch seam. This is going to be, there's a lot of layers of fabric down here because this is the area where we have our credit card slots. So they're folded, and at certain points you're up to like 8 layers of fabric. This is also why we want to use the walking foot, so we can get through all those layers. And we need to use a heavier needle. Even if you're only using cotton fabric, I encourage you at this stage to use a heavier needle, because otherwise it's just going to get fussy. Your machine can get upset with you, which is not fun. Okay, we're coming to a seam area where I want to make sure the fabric stays pressed out. So I'm going to get rid of my clip, and I'm going to hold my fabric down. This way my fingers won't get in the way. If you don't have one of these gadgets, just use a chopstick. It works just the same. So still a 1/2 inch seam allowance at this point. And now we're at the point where we're coming up to the zipper. And this is going to get interesting, because our zipper is right here, and our teeth, or our toes for our foot are right there. So we are going to be going over the zipper a little bit, and it takes some slow and methodical work to get it to not mess up. And you also are going to have to turn to a slightly different angle once you get here. All right. So I am going to push this down underneath because we angle out. So we want to get to the seam. All right, I'm at the seam, and now I'm going to turn my fabric so that the side that we're going to stitch to now is straight, and go straight a few stitches. And now I'm going to start angling out, because I want to get to this mark. I want to be a slight angle out. What have we caught on? Nothing. Okay. It's just being difficult. And so slight angle out. So now we're not working off the foot anymore. We're just angling out a little bit and going to the 5/8 inch mark. So there we go. We've stitched down one side. Now we have to stitch down the other side. Same considerations. Lots and lots of layers of fabric. Make sure our seams are pressed so we don't have lots of layers of fabric taking over our world. Okay. Let's get our clips back over where they belong. And you can see that my fabric really wants to be challenging here, especially considering my zipper pull is right there. So we've got lots of layers and lots of stuff to get around. We want to take our time. Actually, I'm going to pull this just a bit out of the way. Did not close it in any way, shape, or form. We just moved it slightly out of the way. And I am going to put pins in. So pins actually hold better than the clips because they're intersecting the fabric in two spots. So they will not allow the fabric to even shift a little bit. Whereas the clips do tend to allow for a little bit of shifting. They're a very good tool. I use them all the time. It's just there are certain spots where pins are better. And this happens to be one of them. All right, so we're doing our 1/2 inch up to the seam. Now we're turning, so we have our angle so that we're back at a 1/2 inch. And we're going to go forward again just to get our walking foot off of all of that fabric. So we just go forward a little bit, go down. Now my feed dogs are all towards the bottom, and now we'll start doing our angle. Not paying any attention to where the foot is. We're watching our needle come towards the mark. And we lost a camera again. Alrighty, well, we can finish this up without that camera. We will just be doing a lot of detail work. Okay, so you can see seam allowance over here, and you can plainly see that it angles in and goes right to the mark. And then over here, same thing. We're out a little bit, and then it gets wider and wider and goes to the mark. And like I said, if you want to draw a line there, that's perfectly acceptable. All right, step number 42 says trim the seam allowances close to stitching at the bottom and side edges of the wallet. Okay. So I want to point some things out. Earlier when we were sewing, we sewed on the credit card pockets and things like that. That's what these exterior stitch lines are. We are going to cut all of that off. So as we were sewing earlier, down here, here's the bottom seam that we sewed the, I can't remember what we sewed together at that point, but we had sewn something together down there. No, that's going to stay. That's the 1/2 inch. That's staying. This is our different one. But so some of these seams that we put together earlier, over on this side we had the same situation, are going to be cut off. All right, so here we go. You do not want to cut too close. You don't want to get right next to the yarn or to the thread, to the seam. You want to, have a little bit. I try and put 1/4 inch. That's just me. So I'm trying to do it about halfway between the edge of the fabric and the seam. And right here we have a lot of fabric. So you need a really good pair of scissors. Because again, just like when we did the sewing, we had to sew through all those layers of the credit card pockets. Now we are cutting through all the layers of the credit card pockets. And again, you want to be very cautious not to get too close to that seam, because you're just going to mess everything up, but you can kind of see how many layers of fabric we just cut through. And then this is our bottom seam that we just put in. So again, about halfway between the seam and the edge of the fabric is where we want to go, somewhere in that area. We cut across, get rid of all that extra bulk. And now we are going to go up. Voila! Seam allowances are cut. Now comes the part that I absolutely hate. We've talked about this before. I have to turn this entire wallet right side out. I despise turning things right side out. It just drives me crazy. But we're going to do it. Let's see, can I use this camera? No, that needs to stay like that. All right, so let's turn it right side out. Oh, I'm going to cut my corners. Just trim them at a slight angle so they get nice and pointy. You want to try and get as close, as close as you can to the seam, but you do not want to cut the seam, obviously, because then you'd have a hole in it. All right. So here we go. We have to pull this bottom part out through the top part. And the heavier the fabric you use, the more challenging this is. So some of this is really hard to get through. Some of this is willing to go through fairly easily because the canvas does not want to move, wrinkle, fold, whatever term you want to use. It just wants to stay where it wants to stay. All right, yay. Here, can you? There we go. That's a little better view. Can we focus you? There we go. So now we're going to pull the bottom out. Credit card pocket trying to flip upside down. There we go. Again, flip our credit card pocket out. All right, look at this. We're almost there. Now I'm going to stick my hand in, see if I can get these corners to poke out. All right. See if we can get everybody nice and open. open. The canvas, which is thick, is fighting with the credit card slots, which are also very thick. So everybody's disagreeing. Make sure our flaps are inside, nice and flat. I don't know if you can kind of see, this one wants to stay wrinkled. It doesn't want to flatten. All right, need those nice and flat. They have to be flat because the last step we're going to do is going to close off the bottom, because as you can see right now, this pocket is not a pocket. Well, it is, but it goes all the way through and into the unfinished area of the bag, of the wallet, and that's not going to work for us. We need it to be finished. So the very last step before we get to use our wallet is going to be one more seam, but we have to press it and get it cleaned up a little bit first. So over to the ironing board. Okay, so I'm going to start at the bottom and try and get it to press down a little bit down there. And that was a lot of work, so I'm going to need some water. Now, it does say here that if you are using all quilter's cotton and want to give additional structure to your wallet, cut 2 pieces of ultra firm stabilizer 3.5 inches by 7.25 inches. Reach into your turned wallet with the right side out and glue 1 piece of stabilizer behind each card pocket. That's this area right here. So it's saying that if you want more stability where the card pockets are and you're just using cotton, you would add that extra step in. Because I'm using the canvas, this canvas back here is giving these card slots extra stability, so to speak. And therefore, I don't need to do that step. But if you were only using quilter's cotton, it's something you might want to consider. Alright. Now, one thing that they do not have you do is top stitch around the exterior of the entire wallet. I didn't do it with the last one. I'm not going to do it here because they do not tell you to. I'm not 100% certain I like that. I'm going to use the wallets and see how they function. But I just like top stitching. I guess that's me. I like the way it looks. I think it gives a more finished appearance to things. The reason I'm ironing the other side of the wallet is because when you pull stuff through like I did, it gets everything all wrinkled. And I don't like the way that looks. So I'm debating the next wallet. I'm making another one of these, but using leather. Here's the thing. I would put the leather here. This is going to be the exterior flap. I would not put leather down here. May or may not put the leather on the inside also, so that the flap itself, both sides are leather. I definitely wouldn't use the leather here or here. And it's not actually leather, it's vinyl, so that's wrong. But you can make these pieces out of whatever fabrics you want. You do not have to follow the recommendations of the pattern maker. If you want to use different fabrics in different spots, that's perfectly fine. That is not laying correctly. But all right, let's go over to the sewing machine, and we are now going to stitch in the ditch along this row or line right here. to the machine we go. There we go. Okay, I'm going to lift up my presser foot because we are going over a lot of layers at this point. And I am going to no, I'm not, because I need it to stay so it can support the pocket. I was going to increase my stitch length to my top stitch length, but it just dawned on me that it's going to be the bottom of the pocket, so I don't want that to happen. Also, you will need to stitch forward and back and forward again, so seal off your thread at the beginning and the end. My machine has an automatic feature for that, so I will be using my automatic feature. If you don't have that, you'll need to do 3 stitches forward, 3 stitches back, and then straight ahead. Okay, let's trim off that thread we just made. All right, I did not do a phenomenal job, but so here is where I did the stitch in the ditch, and you can see there are spots where I came off. And this was the only place I was considering using the purple thread that I had, but it dawned on me it was a light purple anyway, so it wouldn't have really mattered. And you can see that my seams did not line up exactly because we have a stitch all the way down the purple canvas. All right, if we open up our pocket, it is now closed off. It does not go all the way through the unfinished portion of the wallet, and we now have a nice zippered pocket that we can close up. We fold up the bottom, we fold down the top, and we have a finished wallet. Canvas is being fussy, so again, this is where this might not be a good place to have canvas, is down here on the bottom, because that's where it's fussing with me. It doesn't want to fold up here very well. Once you get things in it, you never can tell. If you're using something simple here, you could put an embroidery design up here, somebody's initials in the big side, you know, something like that, center them, whatever. You could put a nice embroidery design here. If you're using, this would be a nice spot to have a nice patterned fabric, so maybe do some fussy cutting and make it so that this back here has some nice design on it. You want to be careful here because you're going to have the snaps, so, you know. But lots and lots of pockets for credit cards. I know a lot of my cards these days, my rewards cards and things like that, I've got the smartwatch, so, you know, those things, but I still like to have backups because I cannot tell you how many times I've been to some place where their credit card reader's not working or whatever, their smart connection isn't working, you know, whatever. It's nice to be able to have all of that. My phone does not fit in here, if I remember correctly, but you could use it for a phone slot. Depending on the size of your phone, you might be able to do that. And with the pattern, in addition to the 5 videos going through the details of the wallet, there is a 6th video. And in the 6th video, they tell you how you can add on a, it's not going to work. I knew that. You can add on a wrist strap. There we go. Wow, that's really close. I look really big. You can add on a wrist strap right here, and that way you can put that on and carry it just as a wristlet. I'm not going to be doing this because this is going to be going with, and this is why I used the canvas, my nice big 10 pocket tote. If you haven't seen the video for the 10 pocket tote, there is a playlist out there for that. It has 5 parts to it right now. It will have a 6th part to it after tomorrow because I had problems with the one that I made on camera. This one I did not make on camera. I had problems with the one I made on camera, and I have finally, after about a month of thinking about it, figured out how to solve the problem. So I'm going to be doing that tomorrow. But I have the Winslet wallet and the 10 pocket travel tote. The 10 pocket travel tote was a free pattern. The Winslet wallet was a pattern to purchase, so you'll have to look that up. Like I said, for the wallet, the description is in the link is in the description. All right, so I have my matching set. Actually, I also have this little one here. This is my little mini bag, and there's a video on making a mini bag. I can't remember if I made this one. I think I did because it's got the strap on it. But so I now have 3 pieces that match. This one has the light pink or the light purple instead of the lavender instead of the dark, and I do like the wallet. That's why I made the wallet with the canvas, because I didn't have any dark purple cotton. So I made it with the dark purple canvas because I did have that on hand. But all right, so again, I am Carol Crafty Grandma. Don't forget to thumbs up, like, subscribe, follow, get reminders, all of that good stuff so you can see where we're going. We're almost to 100 subscribers. I know to a lot of channels that's no big deal. It's like 100. I have been working at this for just over a year, and I'm feeling pretty good about the fact that I'm probably going to be able to get 100 subscribers here shortly. So if you enjoy what I'm doing, you see real life when I mess things up. You get to see what happens when I mess things up. I've actually thrown projects away. So just keep watching, and I appreciate all your time, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.